The Royal Rumble 2017 is just a couple of days away. Let's predict this thing and take a look at the go-home Raw and SmackDown shows. What is up? GoodMicWork back at you. The Royal Rumble is finally here. It's right around the corner. We're just a couple of days away from this thing, and I'm here to predict the entire card. And we're also going to take a look at the final Raw and SmackDown shows and all of the build leading up to this match, possibly some thoughts on Fastlane and Elimination Chamber and also WrestleMania. There will be speculation out the ass in this commentary discussing all of the different possibilities and things they could possibly do at the Royal Rumble and leading up to WrestleMania. So let's jump right into Monday Night Raw first. This was the January 23rd edition, and incidentally, January 23rd is the birthday of Hulkamania in the WWE. He defeated the Iron Sheik on January 23rd, 1984 to win his first ever WWE title. So happy birthday, Hulkamania. I enjoyed this Raw a little bit better than some recent weeks' Monday Night Raw, but still it was loaded with a whole lot of shit. It had its moments. It had a pretty good beginning segment. It had a great ending segment. There was one great match with Seth and Sammy in between. But other than that, it's just loaded with all this shit. And I think that's the problem with Raw. Combine that with the fact that it's 3 hours long. It's just too much and it puts you to sleep. And it's just not a very pleasant show to watch anymore. I mean, I'm home every single week live tweeting with all of you. And this past week, I had to kind of walk away. I just turned it off for like 30 minutes and came back for it. I was almost dozing off in my computer chair during some of this shit because it's just such pointless filler, and I just hate so much of what I see on Raw sometimes. But this week, for a go-home show, they really didn't let us down too bad. We had enough good stuff kind of sprinkled around the show that it made it at least bearable. I like some of the surprises they threw at us, especially at the end, so really no complaints there. But why don't we start with the ending segment? We'll just kind of bounce around this one because I want to get into my Royal Rumble predictions, so I don't want to spend too much time on Raw and SmackDown, but I'm at least going to talk about the big moments and at least mention a few of the things that took place. And of course, Raw closed with the big Goldberg promo. He was hyped to appear at the show all week long. And as the show went on, it became apparent that Goldberg's interview would be the main event segment. So I kind of was hoping that we were going to see Brock Lesnar and have a stare down or something like that, even though he really wasn't advertised to appear. But the big story in this segment was Goldberg knocking himself silly. I guess he has this pre-match ritual of banging his head on his locker room door before he comes out to the ring. And as he's coming down there, you see blood trickling from his forehead. And then he gets in the ring with the blood coming down. I think he notices he's bleeding and he's trying to wipe it off, but he keeps bleeding some more. And then he starts cutting his promo and he is just fucking up left and right. He cannot get his feet underneath him. He cannot get moving on this promo. He can't get his words out. And it just took him a little while to get his motor started. And I think he might have knocked himself a little bit silly on the locker room door back there. He used to do this in WCW too, right in the very same spot on his head. I remember for weeks on Monday Nitro, he had the scab right in the top of his head, and it would constantly get opened up week after week in some of his matches. Go back and look. I don't remember the year. I guess 98 is probably when it was, but he's always had this problem. And the fact that he was bleeding during a promo, I could not stop laughing and thinking about what Vince McMahon must have been doing backstage, because he goes apeshit over blood, right? And there's nothing the camera can do to avoid it. The camera has to be on Goldberg because he's cutting a promo. It's not like it's a match where you can kind of do a wide shot or just keep the camera off of him for a little while. He is the focal point. The camera is supposed to be on his face. So there was nothing that they could do. I would have marked out if a doctor ran in the ring with white gloves and started wiping him down. I was waiting for word to come from backstage to tell one of the ring announcers or somebody to toss Goldberg a towel in the ring so he could at least wipe his head off. But he didn't. He cut his promo. He finally got moving on it a little bit. Finally collected himself enough to get out what he was trying to say, and that's when he was interrupted by Paul Heyman. And I was really hoping for Brock Lesnar here. I mean, this is the go-home show to the Royal Rumble. They've been building up this big feud between the two. They're most likely going to work WrestleMania. I was really hoping WWE would surprise us, but I got to admit, when I saw Paul Heyman come out, I thought he was just out there to troll the fans again, tease that Brock was going to be there, and then he's not going to be there. We've seen it a million times. And then he announces Brock, and Brock actually comes out. This is the first time we've seen these two guys in the same place since the Survivor Series, and Brock looks fearless as ever, and he's really kind of showing that he's treating that match as a fluke, and he's not humbled, and he's not scared. And as Paul Heyman starts cutting his promo about what Brock's going to do to him, Goldberg gets on the mic and says, "Are you going to get in this ring and face me like a man, or are you going to stand up there like a dumbass?" I think is what he said. And the crowd kind of oohed and awed, and, you know, I was really hoping at that point that Brock would get in the ring, because if he doesn't, he looks like a bitch. I'm like, Brock, you can't be be called out like that and then retreat. Luckily, Brock walked down to the ring, gets in the ring, stands face to face with Goldberg, and then we get the dong. The lights go out, they come back up, and the Undertaker is standing right there in between Brock Lesnar and Goldberg. The crowd didn't expect it. They popped their balls off for it. I popped my balls off for it. Everybody that was criticizing Monday Night Raw temporarily got over it because WWE gave us not one but two pretty cool surprises. So even though it wasn't a fight and a match, just the epicness of the three of those guys standing in the ring together when we didn't expect it, I thought was a pretty cool way to end Monday Night Raw and a great setup for the Royal Rumble, because this Royal Rumble is stacked. It's pretty much anybody's game, and I'm going to talk a lot about this match later on and who I could potentially predict to win this thing, but I think it could go a lot of different ways. And right now, as they're building to Brock and Goldberg at WrestleMania, you almost think that the two of those guys have to cancel each other out. One of them has to get thrown out. Maybe they toss each other out. Maybe they're jostling for position on the ropes and they use this opportunity to get Braun Strowman over and he throws both of them out at the same time. There's all sorts of shit they could potentially do, but when you see the match in the future at WrestleMania, you got to think that neither one of these guys are going to win the Royal Rumble unless, however, Brock wins it. If their match at WrestleMania is going to be the main event, I actually think I would like it to be a title match. So the one way to have that happen is to have Brock Lesnar win the Royal Rumble and then have Goldberg, who is advertised to work at Fastlane, win the title at Fastlane from Kevin Owens. If you do that, you've got Brock Lesnar versus Goldberg for the Universal title in the main event of WrestleMania, and that does serve a few purposes. I mean, there's an underbelly to that. It's not all good to have these two part-timers come in and work for a title belt. I understand all of those arguments. However, the Universal title doesn't have a lineage yet. It was just created last summer, and it was created in kind of a fucked up way because Finn Balor, the guy that they attempted to launch, got injured the night that he won the belt, and he had to forfeit the title the night after he won it, a brand new belt, so that really screwed everything up. They recovered nicely by having Triple H return and help Kevin Owens win the belt, and they went with Kevin Owens, and I've been happy with him as Universal Champion. I'm happy with his opportunity. I think he's very entertaining. But still, at the end of the day, he's only the second ever Universal Champion, and really he's only the first because Balor never got a chance to defend the title. So, if you put the belt on Brock and Goldberg, that is two really big, impressive icons in the business that WWE can now say held that belt. So years from now, when they talk about that title's history and its lineage, they can have those two names to refer back to. And I think that's something that WWE is actually thinking about. So if they went in that direction, I actually wouldn't care. In my mind, if you're going to have Goldberg and Brock be the main event, I would actually prefer if a title was on the line because that way it feels more justified. And if you disagree with me on that idea, that's fine, but all I'm saying is my scenario keeps Roman Reigns out of the title match, so that at least should make you happy. Speaking of Roman Reigns, he got his rematch with Jericho for the United States title that was set up in the opening segment of Raw with a big interview with Roman Reigns and Jericho and Owens. And this match ended in a DQ, which I was happy to see. I want to see Jericho hold on to that belt at least until WrestleMania. I think Kevin Owens interfered. The referee called for the bell. They ended up locking Roman Reigns in the cage, but he breaks out of it and fights off Jericho and Owens and then ends up putting Owens in the cage and locking the door. And in a great spot, the cage starts raising up in the air and Jericho's freaking out like, my friend, and he holds onto the cage and it starts lifting Jericho up. And as he's about 5 or 6 feet off the ground, Roman comes up and nails him with a Superman punch right off the cage and he falls. It was a pretty good spot. It would have been more awesome, I think, if somebody younger and more athletic than Jericho would have been able to take that punch. I think they could have sold it better, but still, Jericho hanging on to that thing. I mean, I'm scared of heights. I would be scared shitless up in that cage. I would just be so worried that the apparatus that suspends it would break and it falls. I mean, think about that. If Jericho or anybody is inside that cage and it falls down to the ring, you're probably not going to survive that. And that's scary as shit. I think it takes a tremendous amount of courage to be locked in that little cage, suspended so high up in the air. I would be shitting my pants. I think the best part of the interaction between these three guys and the whole match was after the match when they finally got Kevin Owens down from up there and they opened up the door and him and Jericho are so pissed and they were taking turns slamming the cage door. I was laughing my balls off. And then that hot little new announcer comes in the ring and she tries to interview them. And then she announces that the match between Owens and Reigns at the Royal Rumble will now be a no disqualification match. And I was immediately like, what? If it's a no disqualification match, why is Jericho up there? What is the point of the cage if it's no DQ. You know, Jericho could bring bolt cutters with him and cut his way out of the cage and jump down and interfere, and it's all legal. Jericho actually, technically, doesn't even have to get in the cage. If it's a no disqualification match, why doesn't he just refuse to get in the cage? Why doesn't he beat up the referee that's trying to lock him in there and just not get in it? What if he just does anything like that to avoid going in the cage? What are you going to do? You can't disqualify Kevin Owens for that because it's a no disqualification match. So I think the whole thing is just a little bit silly now, but I think possibly, potentially, that no DQ stipulation was put in there to allow Kevin Owens to retain the title. I'm starting to change my tune. I've been pegging Roman Reigns to win this belt pretty much ever since the match was announced, but now I've got some other ideas. And who's to say Jericho has to be the one to interfere? Now that it's no DQ, anybody can interfere, right? So maybe somebody else can come down on Kevin Owens' behalf, like, oh, I don't know, a big bad Samoan from NXT. There's a lot of cool things they could potentially do in this match now that it's no DQ, even though the stipulation itself doesn't make any sense. At least it opens up the door for possibilities and makes it a lot less predictable, which I like. So I'll talk more about that and give you my final prediction here in just a little bit. Easily the best match on Raw, and the best match of the week for that matter, was Sami Zayn versus Seth Rollins. Now, I didn't really like the build-up for this, or the setup, for this match, but I liked the match itself. There was some amazing spots in there. And for some reason, Sami Zayn, of all the people on the roster, he has to be the guy that doesn't automatically get a Royal Rumble spot simply by announcing his entrance into it. He has to actually qualify. He has to have a match. It seemed like it was kind of like a lose-lose situation. No matter who won, I wasn't really going to be happy with the outcome because I don't want to see Seth lose his spot in the Rumble, and I don't want to see Sami lose his spot in the Rumble. And the match luckily saved the confusion of why the segment was even taking place, or the match was even taking place to begin with, because these guys put on an awesome match with a ton of near falls, and the pedigree spot on the apron was phenomenal. And just when Seth is about to pin Sami, Triple H's music hits. I was not shocked at all that Triple H wasn't there. I figured that it was just his music, just enough to distract Seth Rollins. Sami Zayn then catches him in a small package and pins him, and Seth Rollins is out of the Rumble, and Sami Zayn is in, and now he's furiously pissed off at Triple H. And as of right now, Seth is not booked for the Rumble. I have no doubt that sometime between now and Sunday, maybe on the kickoff show, he will find his way into the Royal Rumble. I can't imagine a guy like Seth Rollins not being booked for this show at all. I don't care if it builds up his story with Triple H or not. You got to have Seth Rollins on this show. So I have no doubt that he will find his way into the Royal Rumble match. Maybe he's given a match on the kickoff show. It is a 2-hour-long show, and so far we only have 2 matches announced for it. So maybe Seth could do something on the kickoff to earn his shot in the Royal Rumble, or maybe he just bitches and complains enough to Stephanie and McFoley that they allow him back in. One way or another, I expect Seth Rollins to be in that Royal Rumble, and I don't know if we're going to see Triple H either. Triple H could be a surprise entrant in that. He could have something to do with Seth Rollins getting eliminated, and it can further their storyline and everything. And of course, it's pretty much a guarantee that they're going to work together at WrestleMania. We all know that. And I'll tell you one thing about Sami Zayn, now that he's in this Royal Rumble. I want to see Sami Zayn go full Bob Backlund in this thing. I think Sami should be either one of the last 2 people in the ring or the winner of the thing. I think it's a stretch for him to win it, but I'm kind of putting him in the same boat as a Rey Mysterio or even Daniel Bryan. Of course, Daniel Bryan didn't win the Royal Rumble, but Rey Mysterio did. I want to see Sami Zayn go out there and spend an hour in that ring. Remember Bob Backlund at the Royal Rumble? I think it was 93, the year Yokozuna won it. He just kept surviving and surviving, and next thing you know, over an hour had gone by, and little Bob Backlund is still in there, and Gorilla and Bobby Heenan epically are shouting out, Bob Backlund is still in there. I'll never forget that shit. So I want to see Sami Zayn have a similar type of performance in the Royal Rumble, where he is just a completely spent, broken mess, but he is not giving up. He continues to fight. He's surviving time and time again, being tossed over the top rope and hanging on and sliding back into the bottom rope, or just clinging for dear life to one of the ropes to where nobody can get him out. And I'll tell you another thing, with all the build between Sami and Braun Strowman, what if they're the final 2 in the ring? I've got several different ideas for the Royal Rumble, and if Braun Strowman is the one that's going to win this thing, I think it needs to be him and Sami be the final 2. And Sami, after being in there for so long, maybe Braun Strowman comes in at like number 25 or later, and Sami Zayn, let's say, was maybe number 3 or something, and all Strowman has to do is toss him over the top rope, but Sami keeps fighting and keeps fighting, but eventually succumbs to Strowman, and Strowman dumps him out and wins the Royal Rumble. Sami doesn't have to win it. I'm fine with him not winning it. I think if he puts on a great performance, an epic performance where he is given a standing ovation after he is eliminated, I think that can be just as valuable as a victory in some cases. So with Sammy and a guy like him with his character and this kind of underdog thing that he's got going on, him winning it wouldn't be as fun. I think him almost winning it would be more fun, to where you leave the Royal Rumble with more respect for Sammy than you entered it. And I think that's what they should try to do with him. Those were really the main points of Monday Night Raw, and really the only parts of the show that I found truly interesting. I was mildly amused by the 8-man tag. I think it was Rusev and Jinder Mahal and Titus O'Neil and Strowman taking on the New Day and Enzo and Cass. I like the fact that Strowman continued to look strong and continue to roll, and he absolutely demolished Enzo to win that match. But the best part of it for me was Rusev on the mic. And every time I listen to him on the mic, I'm thinking to myself, you know what the WWE is having him do? He is practicing for his babyface run. Rusev's mic skills are fantastic. He has me cracking up every time he talks. I'd much rather listen to Rusev than the New Day, that's for sure. So I think eventually when Rusev turns babyface, he's going to be pretty hilarious. I mean, right, what is he now? Handsome Rusev? I mean, everything he says is damn hilarious, and I don't know if he even knows how funny he is, which is part of the reason why he is funny. So I'm hoping in the future when he turns face, he won't be a silly guy. I don't want him to be Vladimir Kozlov or anything like that. I just think he needs to be given the stick as often as possible to entertain. I just hope the WWE doesn't always write comedic shit for him. I want him to be funny, yes, but at the same time, a guy that can turn and be very, very serious and kill you at the same time, much like the headliner to this year's Hall of Fame, Kurt Angle, was able to do that during his career. So I'm hoping that Rusev is kind of practicing saying things to get the fans laughing and getting them on his side, and he'll slowly start building momentum, and eventually we'll see him as a pretty entertaining babyface one day. But every time Rusev speaks, I listen. We also had some sit-down interviews with Charlotte and Bayley building to their big match at the Royal Rumble, and I actually like this. This made me care a little bit more about the feud. I haven't been into Bayley. I'm not a big Bayley fan at all. I love Charlotte, of course. I have a giant raging erection for Charlotte. I think she's great. I get the storyline a little bit. You know, Bayley's that young fan that grew up dreaming of being a WWE superstar one day, and Charlotte was kind of born into the business and kind of spoon-fed everything. So they're very, very different. And I think a pre-tape situation kind of helped Bayley as far as, you know, getting her point across and her side of the story across, and what this match means for her and what she's fighting for and all of this. It really didn't make me hate her as much. So I still don't want to see her win. I still want to see Charlotte keep on rolling, but at least the sit-down interviews were good enough to where they kept my attention, I guess, which is the best you can really ask for. Nia Jax destroyed some jobber that I guess is married to some indie wrestler a few of you were telling me about, and she beat her in about 5 seconds. And then Sasha comes out to attack Nia Jax and then hit her with these like double running knees from the ring apron onto the floor, which is a pretty cool spot. They're going to be wrestling in a one-on-one match at the Royal Rumble as well, and that will be on the kickoff show. Other than that, there was really nothing else on Raw significant other than a couple of cruiserweight matches. We had a 6-man match with Tony Nese, Daivari, and Drew Gulak taking on TJ Perkins, Jack Gallagher, and Mustafa Ali, which I think the whole point of that was to try to get him over. He's brand new into the WWE, and they wanted to get him over, and he has that great finishing move, that kind of like inverted or reverse 450 splash or whatever the hell it is. Looks ridiculous, and it was executed absolutely flawlessly. So it will be cool to see this guy in the cruiserweight division more often and everything that he can do. And Rich Swann also beat Noam Dar and then called out Neville after and had a really cheesy line, something about you call yourself the king, I think you're a jester or whatever. So kind of stupid there. And I did watch a little bit of 205 Live actually as well. I did see the match between Cedric Alexander and Neville, and that was damn good. So at this point, I'm still kind of only eyeballing 205 Live, but I appreciate all you guys letting me know when there's a good match on there, and I always make sure I take a look. Moving on to SmackDown now. I really like this show. I've liked SmackDown pretty much every week for the last couple of months. I think if you take all of the good stuff on SmackDown and then compare it with all the good stuff on Raw, I don't know if SmackDown was necessarily a better show, but the good thing about SmackDown is all their stuff is condensed into 2 hours and it doesn't put you to sleep. If Raw was 2 hours, I think the shows would be a little bit more equal, but I just cannot sit there and watch that shit for 3 hours every week. It drives me crazy. So SmackDown is just much easier to watch. It's much more pleasant to watch. It has a better flow to it, and it seems like, you know, you're not just falling asleep in your chair trying to stay awake to watch this shit. It's actually good. So the main event was a lumberjack match for the Intercontinental title that was set up in the opening segment with Daniel Bryan backstage eating an apple, and he's approached by Miz and Maurice. And they're, of course, being douchebags. And I pitched in my last commentary about having Daniel Bryan and The Miz do something at WrestleMania. And if they did do that, they should have The Miz enter the Royal Rumble to Daniel Bryan's theme music, trolling the audience and having everybody shit their pants. I think would be a great moment. But that's only if Daniel Bryan can work a match. And I've never heard anything alluding to the fact that that's even a possibility. So we should probably rule that out for the moment. But I think this Royal Rumble presents the WWE with a shit ton of opportunities to do some really cool things, and I think that would be one of them. And The Miz did come up short in the Lumberjack match, luckily. I loved Miz as Intercontinental Champion, but I'd kind of like to see him just move on from that title. He's held it a bunch of times, and I think Miz is doing good enough work now to where he can be considered for a world title run, and that's what they should be focusing their energy on as far as The Miz goes. So I didn't want to see The Miz win the belt. He didn't. He got fucked up by the Lumberjacks, I think. Dean Ambrose hit him with the Dirty Deeds and pinned him, and the match went off the air. There was a big brawl right in the middle of that match, too, where everybody got in the ring and had like a little mini Royal Rumble. So I was glad to see that when all the smoke cleared, that Dean walked away from this thing with the strap. Speaking of the Intercontinental title, incidentally, now that I think about it, there were some rumors that WWE is going to be changing the Intercontinental and U.S. title designs. I don't know if I heard that right or if it's just a bullshit story. I don't know. But last week on SmackDown, Dean Ambrose was telling Shane McMahon that he needs a new belt because the other one stinks and he didn't even have the IC belt with him last week, so that led to a lot of speculation that they could be redesigning the belts, which scares me shitless. I love the old design of the Intercontinental title. Please do not change that. So what I'm worried about is if they change the design of the U.S. title and the Intercontinental title, that the two belts are going to look the same. One's just going to be red and one's just going to be blue. And if that happens, I will blow a gasket. I really hope that that doesn't happen. Leave the Intercontinental belt alone. Do whatever the fuck you want with the U.S. title. I don't care. Just don't mess with the IC belt. It's the only thing I have left to my WWE past, I feel like. I mean, it's the only thing I have left to cling to of the days that I truly enjoyed as a wrestling fan. And if you change that Intercontinental title design, you know they're going to do the same thing that they did with the tag team titles, and the two belts are probably going to look identical except for the colors, and that is just going to piss me off. I'm even willing to meet you assholes in the WWE halfway on this. If you want to tinker with the IC design a little bit, if you just want to make a new belt, maybe spice it up a little bit, add a little bit more detail to the faceplate, or just change it slightly, I can live with that. And I could even live with changing the United States belt. What if you made the United States belt look like the Intercontinental belt, just with some red, white, and blue flag shit on it, and a red strap for Raw? I'd be perfectly okay with that. Just keep the Intercontinental title design the same. It's my favorite looking belt in the history of the WWE, aside from the Winged Eagle title. I don't want to see it go away. So if you absolutely must change the belt so you can put some more money in your fucking disgusting pockets on replica belt sales, then at least just tweak the US belt and make it look like the current Intercontinental title belt. Make the IC belt on SmackDown blue with a blue strap if you absolutely must, and put a red one on the US title and make them look identical that way. But don't change both designs to where we have two completely new belts. It's just hard for a fan like me to get used to that. So WWE, please don't screw up the one belt in your company that I actually like. I'm begging you. We also had a pretty amazing promo between John Cena and AJ Styles. AJ came out to the ring first, started talking his trash. Cena then came out there, and boy, I'll tell you what, they said some shit in this. I loved it. I thought it was a perfect build-up for their match at the Royal Rumble. I love the feud between these two. I'm starting to smell a John Cena victory, and the crazy thing about this is that since everybody has got a raging huge hard-on for SmackDown, this is the one time in the history of this guy's run in the WWE to where if John Cena wins the WWE title, I actually think the fans are not going to lose their shit. That's what I'm gathering. I know there's going to be lifelong Cena haters out there, but it really feels like some folks have lightened up a little bit on this guy and at least showed him a little bit more respect. And the fact that he's probably going to defeat AJ Styles, a guy that is beloved because of his work on the independents and internationally, for John Cena to beat this guy of all people and for the fans not to lose their shit is a pretty good sign, I think, for the future. Fans have transferred all of their hate over to Roman Reigns and Monday Night Raw, and they're almost tolerating John Cena, which is pretty interesting. I mean, John Cena won that promo against AJ Styles, and I didn't even hear anybody bitching that John Cena buried AJ Styles. Oh, he just buried him and held him down and made him look like shit. No, John Cena cut a better promo than AJ Styles. I actually think AJ is really good on the mic, but John Cena shows me why he is such a good talker. It's not his fault that WWE has written him a bunch of shit. His ability to speak, his ability to get his point across, and his ability to articulate is probably better than anybody on the roster currently in the WWE, and he had a great promo against AJ Styles, put him in his place, even was heelish a little bit, talked about what a bad man he is. He's kind of just subtly teased a few moments of Thuganomics John Cena, and he's a lot more aggressive this time around with AJ Styles, where last time it was built more on respect, and AJ Styles was disrespecting him and beat up John Cena and that whole thing, and Cena usually, for the most part, remained gracious, but now he's like, look, you little punk son of a bitch, I'm going to kick your ass and take that belt off of you, and then shove your head up your own ass when I'm done with you. I mean, he's really laying it on thick on AJ Styles, and I liked it. You know, it's just, it's good stuff. It feels good. Cena is amazing at doing what he's doing, and AJ is holding his own as well. This is a guy that's been in the WWE for less than a year. Royal Rumble will be his 1-year anniversary. He has nothing to be ashamed of. So when he runs into John Cena at the Royal Rumble and potentially loses the belt, I'm just happy that the fans aren't going to light WWE headquarters on fire. Maybe some of these people are starting to grow up. Anytime he did anything like that, it was always Cena's holding him down. Cena's a piece of shit. Cena can't wrestle. Cena can't do this. Cena can't do that. It was just exhausting. So the fact that all this is going down on SmackDown and the fans actually approve, to me, just completely blows my mind based on what the attitude has been amongst the wrestling fans for the past 5 to 10 years. So I'm really happy to see this. And maybe some of these people that wished him dead are starting to realize that maybe he wasn't so bad after all. But you had to get a chuckle about some of the stuff we saw in this promo. AJ, of course, is pissed off, rightfully so, about the Royal Rumble poster. He puts it up there on the Titantron. He's like, where am I? Look at John Cena, front and center. I beat this guy 3 times. I'm the WWE champion, and I'm all the way in the back. AJ Styles is 100% right about that, but so was John Cena. John Cena was right to say, that's the last thing I care about. Go ahead and Photoshop your ass right over top of mine. I do not care. I care about things that actually matter, is basically what he was saying. And then they were showing clips of, where was he? On Good Morning America or whatever, and they're interviewing Cena. They don't even know the name of his opponent, and they kept referring to him as Guy from Atlanta. So it's going to be John Cena versus Guy from Atlanta for the WWE title. And speaking of Atlanta, John Cena, is he a Patriots fan? He's from Boston, right? I mean, I know he's a big Celtics fan and Red Sox fan, I think, so I'm assuming he's a Patriots fan. And they, of course, are playing the Atlanta Falcons in the Super Bowl, so that's a nice little touch of irony there that can be thrown into this match. I hope they acknowledge that or something. I mean, this is a little preview to the Super Bowl, so maybe whoever wins this match wins the Super Bowl. But I think the promo overall did a really good job of setting the final stage for this match. AJ Styles feels disrespected, he feels underappreciated, and he has a point. You know, this has always been a problem in WWE with some talent like AJ Styles. They should be front and center. They're the champion, but they're not. You got Goldberg and Taker and John Cena and all these big name stars in front of everybody, and then all the other guys, the meat and potatoes and the spine of the roster, are all the out of focus guys way in the back. But at the end of the day, Cena really gave it to AJ. I mean, part of me even felt bad for AJ because, I mean, I think he's pretty good on the mic, but he cannot hold a candle to John Cena, that's for sure. And John Cena is out there wearing his brand new ridiculous-looking shirt while talking like a badass at the same time and making a believer out of me. So right now, I'm kind of penciling in John Cena to win that title, and I'll talk about that here in just a couple minutes when we get into the predictions. As far as the rest of SmackDown goes, we saw Mickie James, of course, return last week as La Luchadora. She had an interview this week with Renee Young, and Becky Lynch came out to attack her, but it was all a big setup. Mickie starts to run away through the crowd, and as Becky chases her, Alexa pops out of nowhere and nails her with a forearm, and then the two girls get in the ring and completely beat the hell out of Becky Lynch. So Mickie James is back. She did cut a good promo, and she did a really good job of being a heel, and the crowd was booing her, and she was smooth and got her words out well and really showed what a professional she was. She's been in the business a long time, and she did talk about how she was one of the first people to kind of change women's wrestling in the WWE. There's a little bit of truth to that. I mean, her and Trish did have some pretty good matches, but it was the tail end of that. It was after Mickie James had won her first title. That's when they really got heavy with the models and the and the strippers and all that, and it just didn't feel really that much like a women's division. Very unlike it does today. But Mickie James feels that she was the one that paved the way and really truly started the women's revolution, and that Becky Lynch is a new kid on the block that can't lace her boots. And the two girls did a pretty good job of kicking the crap out of Becky and putting on a pretty good heel performance. Of course, Alexa is fantastic. She came out twice, actually, on SmackDown. Naomi came out there to have a match with, I believe, Natalya. Natalya had attacked Nikki Bella outside by the trucks and threw her into the truck or whatever. So Nikki got revenge on Natalya before her match with Naomi. The match never happened. Naomi gets on the mic, demands that somebody come out there and face her, and that she wants the women's title and all of that. And I can see them pushing Naomi. I wouldn't be surprised at all if she's the next one in line to get a shot of the title, and it looks like she will be, because Alexa Bliss is the one that comes out there and just cuts a great promo. I mean, she's so good on the mic. She just looks down at Naomi and is like, you're just nobody. I don't even want to waste my time with you. She teased getting in the ring to fight her, but then backed off and says, I got better things to do, which is fine, but why come out there to begin with if you have better things to do? But I think Alexa is really good on the mic, and I love her. I think she's hot shit. There was a segment with Carmella and James Ellsworth. They went shopping, and she's trying to make him more fashionable, and they went to this weird-ass clothing store with a guy in a scarf trying to help him out, and Ellsworth is trying on all these ridiculous outfits. It was pretty stupid. Don't really know where they're going with this. Eventually, you know that Carmella is going to wind up turning on Ellsworth, and then he's going to be heartbroken and scorned, and maybe it lights a fire under him or something like that. That's the only thing I can think of as far as the payoff for this goes. Mojo Rawley has been officially entered into the Royal Rumble. He won a big battle royal on SmackDown to earn that opportunity. Baron Corbin did commentary for that. I put up a tweet late last night when I was watching SmackDown. Have you ever seen the 90s movie Airheads? It's got Brendan Fraser and Steve Buscemi and Michael McKean and a few other guys in it. Baron Corbin looks exactly like one of the members of the Lone Rangers. So if you've never seen that movie, look it up. You'll probably feel the same way I do, is that Baron Corbin would fit quite nicely inside that film. We also had Dolph Ziggler beating Kalisto in like record time. It only took him a couple of minutes to beat him. And they did the whole Shawn Michaels Rey Mysterio finish. Kalisto jumped off the top rope and ate a super kick from Dolph, and he pinned him. And then after the match, he went outside the ring to get a chair to do more damage to Kalisto, but Apollo Crews interrupted and came out and made the save. And the only thing I liked about this is that they didn't play Apollo Crews' music. It's one of my pet peeves in WWE. I don't understand that every single time there's a run-in of any kind, they always have to play the guy's music. It's not necessary every single time, and I like the fact that Apollo Crews just ran out there to help out Kalisto without any bullshit. And it's just so much better and so much more realistic and so much more believable that way. I understand that sometimes the music fits, sometimes it's perfect for that wrestler's music to hit when there's going to be a run-in, so you do have to do it every now and then, but you don't have to do it every time, especially for some of these mid-card guys that are just in these underneath feuds. You know, make it a little bit more real and just have them run out there and don't do all this bullshit. I would much prefer to see that a little more often in the WWE. We also had the continuation of the Wyatt family implosion. Randy Orton took on Luke Harper in a one-on-one match, and Bray Wyatt sat out in the rocking chair and just watched the match, completely unbiased and emotionless, and he was just waiting to see who won. And then after Randy Orton beat Luke Harper with the RKO, Bray Wyatt got in the ring and delivered Sister Abigail to Luke Harper. So I don't know if this is an official face turn for Luke Harper and he's out of the Wyatt family, or maybe that's Bray's way of just punishing Luke Harper and you're going to continue to see more dissension in the Wyatt family. I don't know. All three of these guys are in the Royal Rumble, so you got to think they're going to cancel each other out. Somehow two of them are going to lead to one of their eliminations, or all three of them are going to eliminate each other. Who knows? Maybe even Randy Orton tosses out Bray Wyatt. Randy Orton's been pretty loyal to Bray Wyatt, so if that happens, that'll lead to more problems on SmackDown and potentially a WrestleMania match. And then, of course, with Luke Harper, who knows what they're going to do with him. I would love to see him branch out and be a successful single star, but it's not looking too good at the moment. So that pretty much wraps it up for SmackDown. I only turned on Talking Smack for about a minute. I think I watched the beginning when Shane McMahon was talking a little bit, but I didn't really watch the rest of it. So you guys can let me know if any significant interviews took place on that. why don't we move into our Royal Rumble predictions now? First of all, I do want to mention that NXT Takeover, of course, is this Saturday, the night before the Royal Rumble in San Antonio. I am not going to be home to watch that show live, but I will definitely catch it when I get home, and I will mention something in my Royal Rumble reaction video, and I'll at least talk about the results. I know the big title match is Shinsuke Nakamura defending against Bobby Roode, and I think the Authors of Pain are getting a tag team title shot. So I don't know if we're going to see any title changes or not. I haven't been following NXT like I should. I think Shinsuke might hang on to it, but maybe the Authors of Pain will beat DIY. I mean, they're undefeated, right? Have they still been doing that undefeated thing? They won the Dusty Rhodes Tag Team Tournament a long time ago, and they've been pretty unstoppable with Paul Ellering ever since. So I think putting the belts on another Paul Ellering tag team is something that I would not complain about at all. And it can maybe even free up Gargano and Ciampa to do something on the main roster, or maybe even the Royal Rumble or something like that. So right now, as a completely uneducated NXT fan, I would have to bet that maybe Authors of Pain win the tag belts and Shinsuke retains. But I'll mention more about this pay-per-view after it happens. I'll talk about the results probably on Sunday when I come up after the Royal Rumble, and probably on Monday or Tuesday when I do my Raw and SmackDown reviews as well. That show, I have no doubt, will be awesome. All the NXT takeovers are great, and I'm sure we're going to have an awesome one before WrestleMania this year and SummerSlam like we always do. And I hope all the takeovers in 2017 can live up to how great they were in 2016, because that was a fun year in NXT. So let's move on now to the Royal Rumble and predict this thing finally. This is going to be a 6-hour long show if you count the kickoff show. It's going to be crazy. Well, Shawn Michaels, by the way, is going to be there. They did announce this, that he will be a part of the kickoff show, so I'm guessing he's going to be on that panel. The two matches we're getting on this, number one is Sasha Banks versus Nia Jax. I'm going to go with Nia in this match. It's a kickoff match. Sasha Banks got some revenge on her and got the last laugh on this previous Monday Night Raw. I know they're building Nia Jax pretty hard, and there's even been talk of a Sasha Banks heel turn in the future. So with all those factors, I'm going to go ahead and go with Nia winning this match. And then we have the tag team titles on the line. Sheamus and Cesaro versus Gallows and Anderson. This match should be on the main card, in my opinion. I would love it if they would switch out the tag team title match with the SmackDown 6-woman tag team match. I would love to see those two swapped out, but that means you would have two ladies matches on the kickoff show, and you can't really have that. But given the fact that this pay-per-view is 4 hours long, and they could not find room for a tag team title match, to me is a little bit crazy. And this one has a stipulation. Apparently there's going to be 2 referees because of what we saw last week on Monday Night Raw. Oh, I didn't even mention that, by the way, what took place between these 2 tag teams on Raw, but you guys saw what happened. It's just furthering that, and it's about as strong as I've seen Gallows and Anderson look in a while, even though they haven't won the tag team belts, but I'm sick and tired of them falling short. But at the same time, do you want to see him win the tag team belts at the kickoff show? That seems crazy too. So at this point, I can't see Gallows and Anderson coming up short again. I mean, it's already been beyond frustrating that these guys haven't been able to win the tag team titles yet since they came in. So if they fall short one more time, it might freak a lot of people out. But with a double referee thing, I have a feeling there's going to be some controversy one way or the other. So I'm going to predict Sheamus and Cesaro will somehow walk out of this match with the belts. I don't even know if they're going to win or not. What I think is going to wind up happening is the 2 referees are going to have some sort of a controversy. Maybe 2 guys are pinned. Maybe Gallows is being pinned at the same time that Sheamus is being pinned, and both referees count at the same time, and they don't know who the champions are, and then they have to have another match on Monday Night Raw. Or maybe Cesaro and Sheamus win on another fluke, and the 2 referees somehow screw up, and they're awarded the match and the belts unjustly, so they have one more match the next night on Raw where maybe Gallows and Anderson win it there. Or maybe the double referee controversy allows Gallows and Anderson to win the belts, giving Sheamus and Cesaro the rematch on Monday Night Raw. And since we're getting close to WrestleMania time, you have to think that maybe the team of Cesaro and Sheamus could implode, and that could lead to something at WrestleMania, like I mentioned in my last commentary. Even though we've seen these two guys wrestle multiple times, if they threw a stipulation in there, like a loser leaves Raw type of thing, it could at least make the match worth watching with something like that on the line. So at this point, it's just a matter of when WWE feels like taking the titles off of Sheamus and Cesaro. So I guess right now I'm going to predict them to retain, reluctantly. Moving on to the main card, we are going to start with the 6-women match from SmackDown. It's going to be Becky, Naomi, and Nikki Bella taking on Alexa Bliss, Mickie James, and Natalya. I'm going to go with, I guess, Team Alexa. Since Mickie James has just re-debuted in the WWE, I don't want to see her lose on her first time out. And she already lost in a return match in NXT, so maybe give Mickie victory here, and I say the heels win this match. Neville taking on Rich Swann for the Cruiserweight title. Neville 100%. I see no reason at this point to keep the title on Swann. They're pushing Neville. He's over with the fans. They like him. They like his new attitude. And, of course, he's amazing in the ring. So put the belt on him. I'm going with Neville 100%. Charlotte versus Bayley for the Raw Women's title. I want to go with Charlotte. I think Bayley could win this, but I also think these girls aren't done and they could potentially work WrestleMania or something like that. But given what we saw between Charlotte and Sasha, I'd hate for them to do the exact same thing with Bayley and Charlotte. So if Bayley won here at the Royal Rumble and won the belt, you know that Charlotte would get a rematch at Fastlane, and Charlotte is unstoppable on pay-per-views, and she'd probably win the belt back. And it's already a pretty steep hill to climb for Bayley as it is, given how dominant Charlotte is on pay-per-view. So for her to win this match at the Rumble would be a pretty tall order. So at the end of the day, I don't know how it's going to happen. She'll probably cheat, and we're probably going to see more between these two girls, but I expect Charlotte to walk out with the WWE Raw Ladies Championship. So I'm going with her. John Cena versus AJ Styles for the WWE title. I'm going to go with John Cena. I think I made that pretty clear when I was talking about their SmackDown promo a little while ago. And don't mistake me, however, if AJ walks out of this match with the championship, I will not be complaining. I love AJ Styles. I have been sucking his dick since the minute he came into the WWE. You guys know that. I've been more than impressed with him. So if they swerve us or AJ Styles figures out a way to retain that title from John Cena, I sure as hell am not going to complain. And plus, the winner of this match just has to defend the belt in the Elimination Chamber in a few weeks anyway. So it's not like they're out of the woods yet and into WrestleMania with the title. So there's a lot of things they can do here. And I've even proposed having Cena win and then having AJ win it back at the Elimination Chamber so he can still go into WrestleMania as champion. So right now I'm picking John Cena, especially if The Undertaker winds up winning the Royal Rumble. I would still love to see him come back to SmackDown and challenge John Cena for the WWE title at WrestleMania. Apparently that match is not going to happen now, and we can get that out of our heads. So that's fine, but what that means is if John Cena does win the WWE title and he does go into WrestleMania to defend it, who does he now defend it against? And I'm really excited to see how the whole thing plays out, because that match at the Elimination Chamber really opens up the doors for a shitload of possibilities and a lot of different things they can do with not only the WWE title Elimination Chamber, but also the WWE title at WrestleMania. Roman Reigns versus Kevin Owens for the Universal title. This is a match that I have kind of changed my opinion on. For the longest time, I was thinking that Roman was going to take this belt. Now I think Owens is going to retain. I don't know how, but now that it's no disqualification, you got to think that somebody can come interfere on Kevin Owens' behalf, potentially Samoa Joe. I think Samoa Joe could arrive in the Royal Rumble, but if they wanted to do some sort of a run in here and set up a big match between Samoa Joe and Roman Reigns at WrestleMania, this could be a good place to start, and Samoa Joe could run out there and help Kevin Owens win the belt. And then Kevin Owens can go on to Fastlane to defend it against Goldberg and lose it to him, and Brock can win the Royal Rumble and go on to WrestleMania and all that stuff. So that is definitely one option. But if they want to go with Roman winning, I've got an idea. What if they tried to right the wrong from a couple of years ago? Remember when Roman Reigns won the Royal Rumble and the fans booed their asses off in Philadelphia? Who was in the ring with Roman when that happened? One of the most over guys in the history of the WWE, The Rock. And not even The Rock could get Roman Reigns cheered. So what if Roman Reigns is fighting Kevin Owens, the match is good, and despite the fact that nobody likes Roman Reigns, the fans are still into it. Maybe we even get a couple of "this is awesome" chants. Maybe Jericho gets out of the cage, and it's essentially a 2-on-1 match, and they're beating the hell out of Roman Reigns, and then at the last minute, right as they're about to pin him, The Rock's music hits, gives a rock bottom to Kevin Owens, fights Jericho off, and starts brawling with him into the crowd, and Roman Reigns is able to get up and spear Kevin Owens and win the Universal title. I think the crowd might actually pop for that, and instead of booing at the predictable finish of the Royal Rumble a couple years ago, this time they're cheering because they didn't expect to see The Rock, and you've already got so many stars involved in this Royal Rumble anyway. It's a big dome show. The more the merrier. Keep an eye on what The Rock is doing this weekend. Check his tweets. I don't know where he is. I don't know what movie he's filming. Who the hell knows? But he can easily charter a flight in to San Antonio, make a quick appearance, and get the hell out of there in just a couple of hours. So maybe it's something that could actually happen. And if they did have Roman Reigns win the belt I think an appearance by The Rock might be helpful because The Rock wants to make up for that. I think that really bothered him when he was out there that night at the Royal Rumble and the fans were booing their asses off for his cousin. So if he comes out there and kind of makes it right and is able to help Roman Reigns out in a positive way to where the fans, at least for one night, are cheering. I'm not saying they're going to be happy with this the next night on Raw. They'll go right back to booing Roman Reigns. But at least for that moment, in that match, in that building, at that show, the crowd would probably pop and be happy if they did a finish like that. But I'm thinking at the end of the day, Kevin Owens is going to escape this match with the Universal title. So right now, by hook or crook, I'm going to pick Kevin Owens to retain. Which means Roman Reigns might not get another shot at the title unless they do something at Fastlane. If my whole Goldberg and Brock Lesnar scenario doesn't happen, then maybe Kevin Owens retains at the Rumble, which is good because I don't want to see Roman and Cena walk out of the Royal Rumble as champions. I just got done praising the fans for them holding their shit together during this John Cena nonsense. And if he actually wins the belt, I think they're going to be all right with it. But Roman Reigns also winning a belt might be too much for them to take. So I really don't want to see Cena and Roman walk out as champions. So one of these two guys has to fall short. So I'm thinking Roman Reigns is the best bet. Have him fall short to Kevin Owens. It's no DQ. Kevin Owens can do whatever the hell he wants. He can pay off some people to come in there and kick his ass. Braun Strowman can even interfere in this thing and beat the hell out of Roman Reigns, allowing Kevin Owens to win the match, and then Roman Reigns can show up later and pull Braun Strowman out of the Royal Rumble match, and that can set up a match between the two of them at WrestleMania or something like that. Or you could just get the title victory postponed for one more month, and Roman Reigns winds up defeating Kevin Owens for the belt at Fastlane with Chris Jericho screwing up and causing Kevin Owens the match, leading to a match between them at WrestleMania. There's a lot of different things you can do, but for the Royal Rumble, I'm picking Kevin Owens to retain the Universal title. Now it's time for the Royal Rumble match itself. This thing is stacked. We've got a ton of guys in this thing. We've got Goldberg, we've got Brock, we've got Undertaker, we've got Randy Orton, we've got Braun Strowman, we got The Miz, Bray Wyatt, Dolph Ziggler, Dean Ambrose, Big Show, Rusev, Sami Zayn, probably Seth Rollins if he can find his way back into the match. So, like I said, I've talked about a lot of the different possibilities already in this commentary. And at the end of the day, you got to pick a winner, right? So my early pick was Braun Strowman. I just thought he would be the perfect guy, especially if it came down to Braun Strowman and Sami Zayn as the last two guys in the ring, and Braun won the match and gets the title shot. I'd be fine with that. They're pushing Braun hard. Why not? You got to give him a title match, right? I'd also be fine with The Undertaker winning it and moving on to have that big epic match with John Cena at WrestleMania, even though that probably won't happen now. But what I talked about earlier with Brock Lesnar and Goldberg, that could be an option. I mean, think about it. If Goldberg's been gone from the WWE for this long, for them to bring him back in, it had to take some serious convincing. They had to promise him probably a lot of stuff. And maybe they did promise him, number one, a victory against Brock, and number two, a title run, even if it's a short title run, just for nostalgia purposes. So I am starting to change my pick. I had picked Braun Strowman all along, but I am now switching my pick to Brock. I am. I mean, Brock Lesnar, he's down to the final year or two of his contract in the WWE as well. You think if they ever want to do something with him again, as far as him holding a title, now should be the time. He's got to get that victory back from Bill Goldberg at some point. So if they have Brock win the Rumble and Goldberg win the title at Fastlane, that sets up the big match. Brock can avenge the loss to Goldberg, win the Universal title at WrestleMania. Brock would be the heel in this, though, so that is one problem with my theory, is that if Brock Lesnar and Goldberg are the main event, you're going to have the show ending with a heel winning, and WWE doesn't do that very often. Actually, what am I talking about? They technically did that last year with Roman Reigns, and that whole debacle, the fans lost their minds over that. So I guess it wouldn't be that weird, but, with those rumors of Goldberg and Brock being the main event of WrestleMania, I think maybe a title has to be on the line. So I am going to go with Brock, I think. I think that's a crazy pick. I just expected Brock and Goldberg to cancel each other out. They'll throw each other out, or one of them will toss one out and the other one will come back to eliminate the other one later on, or something like that. But if you have Brock win it, that could be big redemption for him for his loss at Survivor Series, because not only did they probably promise Goldberg a whole bunch of stuff, they probably promised Brock too. Here you go. Do you mind getting squashed by Goldberg at Survivor Series? We'll make it up to you. You'll win the Royal Rumble and then you'll beat him at WrestleMania. And Brock's like, all right, where do I sign up? So it's got to benefit both guys. Both guys have to get their moments. I highly doubt Goldberg will win the Royal Rumble. I certainly hope not. I'd much rather see Brock win it. But if it's not going to be Taker, I argue that Taker should win it, because why put him in the Royal Rumble if he's not going to win it? So my only thought is that if The Undertaker's in this thing, he's in it to set up whoever he's going to face at WrestleMania. So possibly, maybe, The Undertaker cleans house at some point. He comes down to the ring, throws everybody out, and it's just him and one other guy. Let's say it's him and Sami Zayn. Let's say midway through the match, Sami Zayn maybe comes in at number 3, maybe number 2, maybe even number 1, and he's fighting his ass off. And about midway through the match, The Undertaker comes in at maybe number 20 or something like that. Completely cleans house, eliminates everybody except for Sami Zayn. And then as soon as he's about to turn his attention to Sami, the lights go out and Finn Balor's music hits. And The Undertaker is staring at the Tron and waiting for him to come out, and Sami grabs him from behind and tosses him out of the ring. And then you can start building to Finn Balor and The Undertaker at WrestleMania. That could be a fun thing to do. There could be all sorts of surprise appearances. I mentioned Samoa Joe earlier on. Maybe he doesn't interfere in the Roman Reigns match. Maybe he enters the Rumble instead. I think Samoa Joe should be coming up to the main roster at any time. And when you remember the big ovation that AJ got last year, maybe they can recreate that with Samoa Joe and get him off and running strong. You could also have Kurt Angle show up in this thing. Of course, he's going into the Hall of Fame. You know he's going to do something at some point. He would be a really fun surprise entrant. And to hear his music hit and that crowd go crazy would be pretty awesome to see. We could see RVD come back in. I don't know what RVD's up to, but he comes in and out. He would be a pretty fun surprise entrant. Maybe somebody else from NXT. Maybe another NXT guy they're going to bring up as well, and we'll see him in the Rumble, possibly Kenny Omega. There has been rumors of him coming into the WWE and something going on with his contract that he could actually possibly appear in this thing if he wanted to, so he's an option. And of course, we have no idea what's going on with Triple H and Seth Rollins. Triple H could even be in this match as well. I mean, he was last year and he won it. The big question in my mind is, if Braun Strowman does not win it, who eliminates him and how does he get eliminated? I'll tell you one thing I want to see Strowman do. I want to see Strowman take James Ellsworth and throw him into the 40th row over the top rope, because Ellsworth eliminated Strowman at Survivor Series, so I'm guessing that Strowman will get some payback on Ellsworth in the Royal Rumble. But if Strowman doesn't win it, who eliminates him? Who throws him out? Maybe Brock and Goldberg together eliminate Strowman. Maybe The Undertaker eliminates Strowman. We have a lot of options here, and I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I'm really looking forward to this Royal Rumble because I really don't know who's going to win. I mean, Roman Reigns is not in this thing. Batista's not in it. There's no predictable winners here. It's really anybody's game at this point, and the cool thing about this is when you look at all of the names in the Royal Rumble, no matter who they have win this thing, I can't see myself being disappointed. So anyway, that's it for me. I am out of here. You guys have a great rest of your week. Don't forget to join me all day on Sunday. I'll be up live tweeting throughout the whole thing, drinking some beer and hanging out. And I'll be up here just a couple of hours after the pay-per-view is over, giving you a full results and reaction video and all of my opinions on what we saw and what WrestleMania is now looking like. We'll know a lot more about Mania in the next couple of days, that's for sure. So you guys take care, and I will catch you on Sunday night. Peace.